Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is September 11th, and today we're going to cover Rocket Pool and Ethereum news. On the Rocket Pool side, we're going to be talking about NodeSet, the news coming out about their launch. We're going to be talking about the hotfix that's needed for the smart contracts for RP62, and we're going to be talking about a whole lot more Rocket Pool stuff. On the Ethereum side, we're going to be talking about PayPal and Venmo integrating ENS. We're going to be talking about Sony. We're going to be talking about the US Congress, talking about DeFi, and a whole lot more really cool stuff. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
And we're going to begin here with this tease from Mage Style a couple of days ago saying, got a big one coming for you, kind sirs. Last touches and they will all go live. So I was wondering, like, what is Mage Style talking about? Like, he works with Gravita. Is there something about Gravita version 2? Is it something about the things that, Gravita's happening, like some new RETH stuff that they're doing? But it ended up being, I thought it might be the news of when their tokens released. However, they said new RPL utility unlocked, and this is Gravita announcing XRETH and XRPL. Let's look at what this means. So Gravita here said unveiling XRETH, which we know that was a product that was supposed to come from NodeSet. So there was like some interesting stuff going on over here, and I wasn't sure what was going on. So they said a revolutionary fee-free LST that passes 100% of staking rewards to holders, powered by Gravita and NodeSet. XRETH is built to amplify your returns across the DeFi ecosystem and bring never before seen benefits to the LST and Rocket Pool ecosystems. Now, this was kind of a little bit out of left field for me, like I said, right? Like, we were expecting this product to come out of NodeSet. It looks like NodeSet are partnering with Gravita to make, XRETH and XRPL happen. So the question was, like, what's actually going on over here? So NodeSet then say, XRETH tokenizes Rocket Pool's 8 ETH bond and passes 100% of rewards with no fees, whether through liquidity directly at NAV or on secondary markets. XRETH provides unmatched flexibility for taking returns. Are you an RPL holder? They'll have XRPL, and you can put your RPL to work and support Rocket Pool's mini pool growth, all while earning compounded RPL rewards with liquidity directly at NAV. XRPL will allow for seamless access to growth, making your unused RPL more productive than ever. And then they say testnet is coming within 2 weeks with a tentative October release pending audit results. We're integrating XRETH and XRPL across DeFi, including access to restaking opportunities and more. So they're doing some interesting stuff here. And then Gravita saying supporting home stakers in Ethereum decentralization with Constellation and NodeSet, with supporting Rocket Pool operators and home stakers, strengthening Ethereum's infrastructure. And then they go on to say this is just the beginning of unlocking the full potential of your XRETH and Gravita, and then join NodeSet. So this, I will be honest, this was quite a surprising post to see, because of the model that Gravita are explaining here is kind of different from what I had expected NodeSet to be doing. And here what happens is Nick said, we're thrilled to announce that we're partnering with Gravita to bring Constellation to mainnet in October. You should expect further information within next week about a testnet launch on Haleshki, and we need each and every one of you to participate to ensure system stability. This is, you can read more about NodeSet's role in Constellation moving forward here. And there's a community call happening this week as well. So the community call is happening on Friday at 12 noon Eastern time. So that's 6 p.m. Central European time and 5 p.m. British summertime, I think. Yep. Let's have a look at their Medium article and see what it says. Right, so this is where we actually get the details now of what is actually happening with this partnership. And basically what they are saying is that Constellation is NodeSet itself is a collection of node operators, and they have over 250 operators. And Constellation is their software that integrates their node operators with Rocket Pool. So they said here, like, let's clarify some details about the relationship with NodeSet and Constellation. They said Constellation is a free open source software project, and NodeSet is a development team responsible for the ideation, design, and development of Constellation. They said when a Web3 protocol is developed, the developer or an affiliated entity e.g. a foundation, often deploys a canonical public version of it with forks or private versions deployed as appropriate by the same entity or other teams. However, NodeSet is a decentralized infrastructure provider, not a DeFi platform or protocol foundation. And while we believe Constellation represents a unique and compelling LST design, NodeSet is not planning to release Constellation on Ethereum mainnet as our own product. In addition to the multitude of regulatory complexities involved in creating and releasing this kind of product, we want to be focused on doing what we do best, which is providing decentralized infrastructure. We then go on to say, there are DeFi specialists who are excited about the possibilities that Constellation affords. We are excited to announce that Gravita is committed to launching a public instance of Constellation as their own product. And based on our expertise with the system, they have chosen NodeSet as their service provider. In practice, this means that Gravita is taking full responsibility for the deployment of Constellation, while NodeSet provides administrative support, and we will refer off operators from our community to Gravita to provide validation services. So this is actually, like I said, this is really interesting. What we're seeing here with the dynamics of it all is that NodeSet are like saying, we are not involved in DeFi, we are just software producers, and we are just a bunch of node operators. And here it's Gravita who are the ones who are actually deploying their the contracts that that will run Constellation as we understood it before. So the idea before that, I had, and I'm sure other people had as well, was that NodeSet would provide the infrastructure and they would also run the DeFi side of it, with the XRETH and XRPL, making sure that they're balanced, like all the Oracle services, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. I had presumed that NodeSet was the one who's going to be running all that. However, it kind of makes sense in this, in this environment where you're not sure of what regulatory issues are going to be coming up. And of course, the NodeSet guys are mostly, as far as I know, if not completely, an American-based team. There are a couple of people who work there who I don't really know, but I know Joe, Wanda, Nick are all American people. They care about their security. They care about, not getting sued or getting fined by the SEC, or though in those bad situations, they could cost them millions of dollars. So for them to say, we are just infrastructure providers, it reduces a lot of the regulatory risks that they could have faced. Those risks will now be taken over by Gravita. And of course, Rhett is also an American citizen, but I know other people in the Gravita team are not Americans. So it might be that, Gravita has established itself outside of the US, which, would maybe help it avoid some of the regulatory issues that I might face. But then here in the Medium article, they talk about original roles, and there's roles such as operators, XRETH holders, XRPL holders, and an administrator. The administrator is responsible for protocol stability and may adjust various protocol parameters such as liquidity reserves and RPL collateralization ratios, while operators create rocket pool mini pools using ETH and RPL assets deposited by XRETH and XRPL holders. So then there's a new role, there's a treasurer, and this person is going to work with splitting responsibilities between fee owners and service providers. Then there's launch status. So here they're saying that we're pleased to report that our work on Constellation is nearly complete, and independent security research already begin reviewing the smart contracts. In the next 2 weeks, NodeSet will open source the repository and launch a Hashkey testnet. After community testing and review, Constellation will be ready for deployment on mainnet. Gravita is planning to launch their version of Constellation in October 2025, so stay tuned for details. So this is really exciting. Rocket Pool, there was some, actually, let me go back to the Discord, because when they made the announcement, Nick was talking about how he thinks that, we will empty the deposit pool, which of course is around 30,000 ETH right now, which is pretty nice. That means they think that they've got 10,000 ETH that they can bring into their protocol right away, which would make it about 15 times bigger than their Stakewise vault from day one, hopefully. But Gravita as well got their announcement out, and they said that this will be 100% rewards, zero fees. Now, it's really interesting because that isn't quite right. So the way it works is that, to be a Rocket Pool node operator, which is what the operators will be, and XRETH holders will get a share of the income from that. Now, how does it work? So as a Rocket Pool, let's just use Rocket Pool node operators for example. Now, I'm a Rocket Pool node operator. I get 100% of my staking rewards in line with the amount of bond that I have. So I have, a quarter of a validator. So that means I get a quarter of the rewards that come into that validator. So that makes sense right now. So that is 100% of the reward, right? Like that's my share of rewards. Now, on top of that, what I also get is 14% commission from our ETH holders. So their rewards go down by 14%, my rewards increase by 14%. And of those rewards, that 14% is what is going to go to Gravita and I presume NodeSet. They'll probably have some kind of revenue sharing system that I'm sure they'll share later, or they might not share at all even, but you'll probably be able to find it on chain, I guess. But that is the part that is not, they're not counting as rewards here. I guess they're counting as a commission or something. It's not staking rewards. So at this point of it being 100% rewards is kind of a semantic issue. But in terms of like return, it's going to be better than pretty much every LST on the market. And the reason for that is because there's that LST holders won't be paying a commission, right? It's that our ETH holders that who will be paying a commission. It's not XR ETH holders who are paying a commission. Their commission comes out of the fact that node operators get the commission and they won't be getting that. So they aren't technically getting all the money they would be if they were Rocket Pool node operator themselves. But of course, being an XR ETH holder, you don't need any RPL. Or you don't need to run the infrastructure on your own or anything like that. So there are definitely some advantages. Here, Gravita is saying that they're also bringing extra RPL, and that will give you rewards as well, and compounding rewards, which is pretty cool. And then they've got call for decentralization, and if you're interested in becoming a node operator with NodeSet, you can share that information. So I think one of the things that's going to be really interesting is to see what further integrations they have here, how this might work with restaking, like they were kind of hinting at, and other things that come up over time. But this, I'm excited about this very much from the perspective that I know Nick and Wanda and Joe, and I'm excited for them because they've been working on this for a really long time. I'm excited about this from a Rocket Pool perspective because Rocket Pool has suffered from shortage of node operators, and this will hopefully go some ways towards alleviating some of those issues. I really do feel like the deposit pool that we have right now, it's got 30,000 or thereabouts ETH in there. I really do think that nodes have a good chance of pretty much erasing that down to zero, at least once, hopefully a couple of times, hopefully 10 times. if they can bring online that ETH, that would be really fantastic. So this is a protocol that's built on top of Rocket Pool. A huge shout out to them. I'm gonna get Nick and maybe Wanda, both of them, on an episode of Launchpad to talk about what they're doing and what they've done and how everything looks from their side. It might be worth getting Rhett on again to talk about them running XR ETH and XRPL and how that's all going to look. But this is really, really cool development in Rocket Pool land. So congratulations to all of you all who are involved. And I'll be honest, right? Like one of the things that I found surprising about this was the timeline, with today being September 11th, 2 weeks to get all the testnet live. That means that the audit results. It seems like everything's looking really good. There was probably no major findings that they need to go back and do major rework on, which is fantastic. But if we get to testnet within the next 2 weeks, and say the testnet runs for maybe a little bit too short a time, might be 2 weeks, but I think a more realistic time is somewhere around 4 weeks. That will take us to the middle of October, which means that they'll be ready for launch at the end of October, which would be incredibly exciting. So this is really, really awesome stuff. And I need to get my machine set up for Haleshki, because I, of course, am also a node operator who's been chosen by Gravita, sorry, not by Gravita, by NodeSet. That, of course, doesn't really influence anything that I'm saying about NodeSet here. I've been hyped about NodeSet since before I was a selected node operator, but I don't hold any other equity in a company or shares or anything like that. I don't have a token. But if they want to give me tokens, they're welcome to. I don't think they're going to have tokens. So yeah, but that's really, really cool news. So congrats, everyone. Okay, getting on to some direct Rocket Pool news now. Here we have Mav sharing word of a community call that took place yesterday. This was a special guest archive protocol, and then there were some questions with Ken and Langers. Sadly, I wasn't able to listen to the call, so I can't provide you with a summary. However, the call is available on YouTube already. So Mav did a really good job of getting that out. So good job, Mav. He's actually really fast on that now, so that's really cool. But yeah, this one was posted on Discord, of course, and you can go back and listen to that. We also got the bi-weekly update, which we can just run through quite quickly here. So we have our ETH supply declined by 0.7%, down to 492,000. Active mini pool count grew, which to 22,850, and the node operator count increased 0.2% to 3,746. Of course, every time I have to say this, that number is a go up only number. It's not necessarily the real number of active node operators on Rocket Pool right now. That number is closer to 1,700 or 1,800, as far as I know. And then Smart Node 1.13.8 was released. We talked about it in the other day's episode. Yeah, in the previous episode we talked about that. And then R&D, the audit of the Houston hotfix will commence next week, and we're going to be talking about that later as well. And initial work on Saturn and tokenomics continues. And then there was a discussion thread for Saturn Zero, ETH-only mini pools that we've talked about, Rocket Fuel. A range of DAO reports were published. So there's the Treasury and IMC period report and GMC Treasury report as well. And then, of course, there's a new grants round that's open around 17. And then Gravita announcement with integrations and RETH supported a new DeFi project and a GameFi project. And then with marketing, Rocket Pool node operators are eligible to join the team at the staking summit on 8th and 9th of November in Bangkok. And you can get a significant discount for attendance. And then Binance listed RPL futures, and other exchanges followed soon after with BitGet and Orange Exchange and Super Exchange. And of course, always do your own research. Jasper hosted blocks around the community call, and Ken discussed the protocol news with Langers. And then there was a variety of Twitter content featuring our ETH, and that's from Strike Finance, CakePie, and Flat Money and others. So you can read that bi-weekly update to get all the news. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we talked briefly about the hotfix. So here, Langers put through the code to get merged. I don't fully understand GitHub, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at, but it seems like basically the content of the hotfix were all set and agreed upon. And here it says that the merge branch main it was merged, and then there was a final branch set up. So that means that the work for the hotfix has been completed. And like Mav said in the bi-weekly, it looks like he's going to audit next week. Now, this is actually really significant because there were some worries from Halulo more than anyone else about there being no timeline for when the hotfix will go to audit, and the problem with that being that we don't know when Saturn Zero would be able to come online. The idea being, of course, that the vote would go through, the vote would be approved, and then we'd still be waiting on the hotfix. And with that not happening, it might mean that Lido CSM gets ahead of us, etc., and then gets a little bit of a run ahead on getting new node operators. Now, with this hotfix going in now, the vote hasn't even started for RPIP 62. I think it's quite a quick audit. It might take a week, maybe 2 weeks at most for the audit to happen. I presume there won't be any changes or issues with it. So it's very possible that the hotfix would be done before the voting is finished, which means hopefully that RPIP 62, if it's passed, could get implemented very, very quickly. There's one other bottleneck for RPIP 62 to get implemented, and that is the rewards tree work that needs to be done. So the way that this works is, there's a algorithm or software that calculates who should be getting what rewards. And the difficulty is that, you know, you have to make a new system because there'd be a new way of giving out the rewards, right, for ETH validators, the RPL cliff potentially going away. And Patches is one of the people who would be working on that rewards tree. And he actually had some really good news in the research thread for ETH only validators. He said, I've reviewed the spec a couple of times, and I believe it's feasible to quickly implement, and the spec is written to the existing standard of thoroughness and clarity. Now, this is actually really good news because it means that, you know, getting the work done to get a new spec out will be really quick. And I think this is just like the lining up of dominoes of things actually finally coming together for Rocket Pool, and I'm really excited about this. Like, you know, we started off the episode talking about NodeSet. Now we've got good progress being made on RPIP 62. We just needed that to go to vote. And I'm actually pretty sure that that will get passed in one way or another, either with the cliff existing or the cliff being removed. But this is actually really, really good. So, you know, September 11th, I'm recording this today. We got this news about the hotfix yesterday, pretty much, and the rewards tree yesterday as well. So even if we say that, you know, it will take 6 weeks to get everything done, including the vote passing, the audit going through, testing happening, the new rewards tree, everything, it could be that, you know, we get ETH validators on Rocket Pool within 6 weeks. And that would put us right in time with Lido CSM. Of course, around that same time, we could also have NodeSet going live. Well, not NodeSet now, but Gravitas Constellation going live, which is really weird to say. But that would be really awesome as well. And hopefully, there's some good discussions taking place about Rocket Land in the background right now. We're still trying to figure out what the best way forward for that might be. But this is actually really, really, really good stuff. And I'm super excited about Rocket Pool, and hopefully, you know, we'll see some TVL numbers actually starting to increase in the next couple of months, and that I'm super excited about. Okay, we've got a new POAP from Dr. Doofus, and this is Rocket Pool Memories POAP, and this is actually like a really, really cool idea. So Dr. Doofus says that he was inspired by last week when people were talking about Rocket Pool events in the past and how they, like, you know, became long-term memories for them about the community and the experiences in it. So he says, I created a new shitty POAP. I might run a raffle with it eventually or maybe not. But he says to get the POAP, write a memory from Rocket Pool history in this thread. You have 1 week. Do not copy someone else. But if I think it was unintended, I'll allow it. It can be an old memory, like when Rocket Pool Discord was so small, the welcome channel was the general discussion channel. Or it can be recent, like when Nixo asked for this POAP. They said, please dig deep and help us all remember the weird, steeper times we've had in here. Last week I helped someone support is not a good entry. Remember when Ice Falcon doxed himself as Steve Wonderberg is, let's go, you got 1 week. So Haka says, I remember when this thread was created. Nikki says, the time when Nixo got covered with chimney suit. And then I said, I think one memory I'll always have Rocket Pools and Binance listed RPL. And I had to work a 12-hour day making Rocket Fuel that day. I have like a billion other memories as well. But that one really sticks out to me. It's kind of a traumatic experience for me, I'll be honest. It was, I think that was like peak Whack gets, Whack has a difficult time making Rocket Fuel. And that's when the submission channel started as well. So I guess there was some good that came out of that. But then Hululu said, I remember when LFO got TPAN banned immediately after joining, and that's Thomas joining the team. And he got banned, in his first main introduction into trading. And people like, with Keck chains, and there's some POAPs that appear, there's some memories that will appear actually on the POAP itself, and LFO getting a TPAN banned is one of them. But then there's a whole lot of other ones as well. But this is actually, like, this thread is such a nice walk down memory lane. There's some really, really cool stuff in here. So if you are ever feeling about the glory days of the Rocket Pool community, when prices were high and everyone was happy, there's some really cool stuff in here. So if you do want to share some memories or read other people's memories, then definitely check it out. I've got some favorites, but it'll be difficult. But here, Kron says, I remember when I got banned by Wick for tagging too many people to thank them for reporting. But there's some really, really good memories in here. So definitely go and check. But this thread has already gotten a lot of traction. A whole lot of people have shared their memories. And I think that there's some really cool stuff in here. So I'm actually excited about getting this POAP. And sometimes I can't believe that I've been in the Rocket Pool community for like nearly 3 years now. I think 3 years ago is when I bought my first RPL. Of course, I'm down bad since then, but that's okay. Like, we've made friends along the way, so it's not too bad. But yeah, even people like Superfizz came here and shared their memories as well, and it's really nice. So definitely go and give that a read. I've really enjoyed this thread so far. Okay, we've got some news from the GMC. So the GMC has a monthly town hall meeting where people from the community can come and ask questions of the GMC and share their perspectives, their ideas, whatever they want. It's a platform for the wider community to come and hold us the task or just share their thoughts and ideas. And here Schifrin says that GMC Town Hall is set for Thursday, and that is going to be going at 2 p.m. Eastern Time US or 8 p.m. European Central Time or 7 p.m. UK time. So sorry if you are in another time zone, you can work that time out for yourself. But if you need an invite to the GMC server, hit up Schifrin and he will give you an invite so you can go pop in there and take part in the town hall. But that's normally a nice time for, it's not normally the biggest thing. Like, we have maybe 5 or 6 members, maybe 6 members out of 9 of the GMC who turn up. And then we have maybe 8 sometimes as well. Like, I think once we had everyone turn up, it was really cool. But we have most of the GMC turn up. We have probably like 10 or 12 community members turn up, and it's normally quite a productive session. We share what went well in the round, what went badly in the round, and how our general feelings about that. So that's taking place tomorrow. If you want to pop by and listen to GMC talking for a while, you're welcome to do that. Okay, moving on to some staking news now. So Lido CSM, of course, is getting closer and closer to their mainnet launch date. I had Dimi on Rocket Fuel, and he talked about CSM, and he's actually, I think he or maybe other members of their team are going to go on the ETH staker call next week. So they're starting to build that hype, and with hype, of course, you need the shit posting that comes with it. So Dimi here has started his shit posting arc now, and he says, I want to ask Eigenlayer and other restaking protocols if they are capable of offering an ETH APR multiplier of 2.37, like Lido Finance's CSM will be in November 2024. So here what he's referring to, of course, is that if you stake your ETH with a Lido through their CSM, you'll be vastly outperforming solo staking rewards, and you'll be getting more than double the amount than you would as a solo staker. And there's really interesting thing is actually ship hosting, letting them people know that it's such a good product. But Val kind of took you seriously to his face value, and he says, the answer is obviously yes, they can do the same thing and then offer a magic bit on top, e.g. point your Lido CSM withdrawal address at Eigenlayer. So that was actually really interesting. And then trading, we're talking about this new Lido workshop that's taking place in London, which is set up by LaunchNode, and they have this what do you need to become a Lido node operator? And it's really funny because they're actually telling people to buy an AWS account and then set up a subscription to the CSM marketplace on Amazon Web Service, and the total cost for that would be $360 a year. And if you have, I think, 2 validators on Lido CSM, which is about 4 or 5 ETH, 3.5 ETH, then I don't think you'll be making enough rewards for the year to pay for this. I think even at 4 or 5 validators, you might not be making enough to even pay for this. So, and of course, this is quite centralizing, right? We want people to be running their nodes at home, but here these guys are saying, hey, you can do it through AWS, and we're going to have a CSM marketplace on AWS to do that. And then people, of course, started saying, hey, look, they're decentralizing Ethereum. Great job, guys. Well done on the decentralizing. And then this is the event. So Hululo linked to it. So this is with launch nodes, and they have a Lido CSM workshop. So like I said, they're getting into that point where they're trying to hype it, where they're trying to get node operators lined up for it. And that's what they're doing. But it's and here they said, who should attend this, and they're still kind of leaning into that professionals line. So they're saying aspiring Lido CSM node operators, Ethereum staking enthusiasts, blockchain and crypto professionals and developers interested in decentralized finance. And then Invis says Vitalik would love to attend this workshop, but yeah, there was some other shit posting where Ramana, of course, lives in London. I don't think that's doxing him to say that. Sorry, Ramana, but he says that Mav is coming to London for it, and he's actually running the workshop. And then Hululu was saying that I could promote the workshop. I'm not promoting the workshop, even though I did give it coverage on Rocket Fuel. So, oh no, maybe I did promote the workshop. But yeah, so like I said, the Lido are getting ready for their big push. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out. Because if what Dimi was saying on the Launchpad, he was saying that, they'll cap it at 10 validators. So that means that each validator will be bringing around 16 or 17 ETH, something around there. No, less than that, even maybe like 15 ETH. So, because the first one will be like 2.4, and after that it'll be 1.3, I think, or 1.2. With those numbers, like, they're going to need hundreds of node operators to hit that 1% number of their cap. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if there's that many people out there who either want to spin up validators on AWS or whether they want to spin up validators at home. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of traction they get. I'd love to see someone make a Dune Analytics dashboard of Lido CSM, but maybe someone on the Lido side will pay for that. Okay, moving on to some Ethereum news now, and I didn't cover this a couple of days ago. On Monday's episode, I didn't talk about Ethereum news, so today there's a whole lot to talk about. So one of the first things is the big news of this week was this news from ENS, and there's going to be a bunch of ENS stuff happening. So I'm just going to cover it all in this segment. The biggest news definitely was that ENS is thrilled to announce it's supported on PayPal and Venmo. And this feature brings the power of ENS to millions, making crypto transfers easier and more secure than ever, starting in the US. So if you're in the US and use PayPal or Venmo, and if you want to send crypto, you can now do that with ENS. So it's as simple as when you're putting in the person to send the information to, you can just put their ENS in there instead of everything else. And you can, like, for example, search for nick.eth. That's what this is showing the ad here. You can send in the crypto. So simply enter your ENS name when sending crypto on PayPal or Venmo. The platform will automatically resolve it. It's totally seamless, user-friendly transactions. And then there's a new address book feature as well, where you can save your most used ENS names and wallet addresses for even faster transfers. And this is the future of crypto, they're saying. So you can actually get it to work with emojis as well. So if you have an emoji in your ENS name, that will actually work as well. So this was really big news. Like, people were really excited about it. Here we had Steve, who works with Venmo and PayPal, and he says, our job is to make crypto transfers easier and easier. So this is really cool. PayPal are really going all in on crypto, and I think it's only a matter of time before they start their own layer 2. And I'll tell you why that is, right? So they've got their own stablecoin, PayPal USD, PPUSD, I think it is, a PYUSD. I'm sorry, I don't know why that slipped my mind. And that is mostly on Ethereum and Solana. I think it's kind of a 50-50 split right now between those two blockchains, where they have their TVL, and I think it's over $1 billion now, like maybe approaching $2 billion. What's really interesting here is that, it seems like they're leaning into this payments platform, payment system. Honestly, like, they need to follow the base model and see how much money Base are making, and they need to set up an OP stack chain of their own, and they'll control the sequencer, they control the fees, they can get DeFi on there, they can get instances of Uniswap, for example, and they can have ETH pairs with their PYUSD and other DeFi stuff, and it would all be like, well, eventually, hopefully, be permissionless and all that good stuff. But they would make so much money from this. It just makes sense. Like, and of course, what they want to happen as well is they'll sell this stable coin that would be the powerhouse of their layer 2, and they would make billions of dollars a year because people would mint their PYUSD, because of course they want to stay in the PayPal and Venmo rails, and that they use it. That would be their backend basically. They transfer ETH and crypto around, and what would happen is they'd get more and more people minting PYUSD. They could use that to then put it in money markets and make money. Like Tether is basically printing money, and I think this, like a whole lot of businesses that have these captured audiences. I think PayPal's got like 400 million users worldwide. It only makes sense for them to move on to these crypto rails because the amount of money they can make is astonishing, like truly astonishing. They can make so much money by adopting these crypto rails, just like Base are doing with Coinbase are doing with Base. That's what PayPal can do. That's what Venmo can do. And I'm going to come back to this idea in a few minutes, but we've got some more ENS news as well. So ENS, they have ENS version 2 updates here. It says that we've launched our latest blog post covering all the key updates on ENS version 2. Learn about a rebrand, a new metadata service, and what's next for ENS. And there's a full update. So they've got a blog post that you can have a look at. So yeah, I think it might be time to renew your ENS names to make sure that they're running for like the next 20 years, because it looks like this isn't going anywhere and they're growing faster and stronger than people thought. And then here Brantley says, holy effing shit, ENS has been on the tear this year. A recap for everyone who's been asleep. So first it was Google who started recognizing ENS names. So if you put in your ENS name into Google, it would bring up like your ETH balance from Etherscan, which is pretty cool. And then GoDaddy supported DNS names in ENS. So you could get if you put your ENS name in, it could like take you to a website. With Uniswap and Coinbase have issued hundreds of thousands of subnames, each growing. So, you could have your name.uni.eth or your name.base.eth, which is pretty cool. And then PayPal and Venmo now support sending crypto. So ENS Brantley here is, of course, saying that ENS is doing amazing stuff, and they're developing in this bear market, and things are going really well for them. So great stuff from ENS there, and PayPal and Venmo as well. Now this is actually really interesting, and this kind of links to the point that I was just making. So here JC is saying that Ethereum Layer 2 Sonium by Sony will create a stable coin for the Japanese yen with Sony Bank. It's a very smart move by Sony. Now, this is exactly the point that I was making. If you are a company who has millions, if not hundreds of millions of users tapped into your, like a system of hardware, software, services, then you can leverage that with building other services on top of it and giving it to your customers who you already have and making a whole lot of money out of it. Now, what does this mean? So Sony, of course, have PlayStation with hundreds of millions of gamers. They have hardware brands like TVs that hundreds of millions of people use around the world. They have movie studios. They have music labels. They have so many different products that literally have hundreds of millions of users a year. If they put all of those things under this banner of a Sonium L2 and they use that as the financial rails for their emerging economy that they could create themselves, they could make so much money, right? And they definitely have seen this Coinbase with USDC part of their growth, and they're like, hey, we want in on that. So by making a stable yen, Sony, of course, is a Japanese brand, right? Making a stable yen, what they can do is they can start making those fees, right? Like, so they give it to their users, they take the yen that their users deposit and put it in the Japanese version of bonds or money market, or maybe even do the yen carry trade and put it in the US markets and get some really good rewards, right, for themselves. And they can share that with their users if they want, but they don't have to. I guess Tether doesn't, and they're making billions of dollars a year. But this is one of those situations where I think Sony realized that they have the capacity to get Sony users on their chain. And eventually it'll be the case that Sony users don't even know that their backend is a crypto platform, right? They'll just be like, hey, Sony have got yen in there, and they'll probably make some kind of dollar and euro and all this kind of stuff as well. So if you want to send money to someone on PlayStation, you can do that, and that will be happening on the layer 2 in the back end, and there'll be a wallet address that will be .sony.eth or whatever their version of it will be, and the money will be moving around, and if all those fees will eventually accrue to Ethereum, because they'll have to buy the blob space. When blob space is saturated, there's going to be a blob fee market. And if they're doing thousands of transactions within a blob, it's okay to pay $1 for, well, not $1, but like, hundreds of dollars of fees for that one blob. And then there could be, dozens of blobs per second, so per block. So eventually there could be, millions and millions of dollars a day of ETH being burned through blobs. That is, the layer 2 roadmap and the fee accrual to Ethereum from blobs. Right now, that hasn't worked that much because, blobs are saturated. But with services like Base, Sonium, maybe a PayPal, layer 2, a BlackRock layer 2, a Fidelity layer 2, with all these different services that could, pop up and will likely pop up. And they'll be within these ecosystems, right? So they'll be like within the OP stack, or they'll be, one of the Arbitrum on the Arbitrum chain or a ZK chain, whatever. I think there'll be like 4, 5, maybe 10 of these mega hubs, whatever you want to call it. And then within that, there'll be all these different like sub chains. And within them, they'll be all like fully composable. Maybe outside of them, they might be fully composable too, eventually. But there's some really, really cool stuff happening here. And Ethereum is where it's all happening, and that is absolutely awesome to see. Okay, now the US government, of course, is a regulatory hurdle towards a lot of this, and depending on how things go in Washington, we're either going to be have 4 uncertain years about crypto, or potentially 4 quite supportive years for crypto. However, crypto, the community as a whole, is still going quite strong with the political angle. And here, Jake Chavinsky, who's a lawyer, a crypto lawyer, he's sharing news of a DeFi hearing that took place in Congress. He said tomorrow is the first ever congressional hearing on DeFi, and it's going to be fire. He says DeFi is the future of finance, and about time for Congress to start formally educating itself on how this tech will change the world. And then he says there's a link where you can watch it. And this took place yesterday. So afterwards, he said, honestly feeling emotional after the first ever DeFi hearing in Congress today. I remember years ago when DeFi was like 10 projects that no one thought would amount to anything. Now it's on full display in the halls of power at DC. He says this is so powerful. So he actually shares a clip of Amanda Tominelli, speaking about DeFi and what the advantages of it are compared to TradFi. And it's actually like a really cool talk where she gives her perspective of why DeFi is just so much better in every way. And then there's still people in Congress who just fundamentally don't understand what crypto is like. So this person here, Representative Shane Caston, talked about how people who deploy DeFi protocols should be culpable for any crimes that happen on them. So here Bill Hughes kind of like responded to this, saying, according to Representative Shane Caston, if you make a neutral technology tool that is used by third parties to launder money, then you are aiding and abetting a felony and therefore criminally culpable. And it's crazy to think otherwise. He says that's because running a pizza parlor as a front for money laundering operations is functionally no different than writing user-agnostic software and publishing it to the blockchain. So the Congress is making quite a name for himself, to say the least. Stuff like this confirms all the alarmism amongst technologists. Putting it another way, this is scary even if you think you're sane. So this is the kind of line that we got a lot in the Tornado Cash case and the peripheries around that. And the fact is that there's some people who will say that this is a barrier to growth for DeFi because there's politicians who will want to stifle it. There were other people speaking at this hearing as well, and they made some really good points about financial freedom and growth for DeFi and users having control of their assets, and how that is much more liberating for them than this bank system. There was talk about how there's ever greater burdens that are placed on users, and it's not actually going anywhere to prevent crime taking place. There's some really, really cool stuff. I mean, in the traditional banking system. So like it just doesn't make sense to try to enforce that onto crypto as well. But definitely you can go and watch the whole video if you want. There was a lot of talk about it on crypto Twitter if you want to kind of follow that along. But I thought it was definitely worth sharing. Okay, here we have the Ethereum core developers crypto account, Twitter account, having a summary of the AMA that they did on Reddit last week, and I covered this on Monday's episode, where I talked about Justin Drake's answer about layer 2s, I think it was, or value accrual to the layer 1. Well, one of those things. It was a really good answer. It's slipped my mind right now. But here there's a nice summary where some of the key questions were kind of brought up, and a summary of the answer given. So he said, like, what's the value accrual thesis for ETH asset? Does the Ethereum Foundation consider continuous value accrual to ETH to be important? If executing on the rest of the roadmap will result in a diversity of rollups, and then like how that's going to settle. So if you want to listen, if you want to read the full one, or just get summaries of the big questions that were asked, you can read this Twitter thread, or you can actually go back and read the whole AMA. And you might have to dig through it a little bit because of the way Reddit formatting is set up, but there's some really, really good information in there. Okay, next, Mike Neuder, who's a researcher with the Ethereum Foundation, has actually set up a post about his thesis. So this was from Monday. He says, excited to share my ETH thesis, or thesis, my take on Ethereum ETH roadmap. He says, I see Ethereum primarily as a property rights system for expressing and settling digital value, but also explore how data availability and execution fit into my worldview. So if you want to read this, this is on his HackMD, and he talks about the essence of Ethereum and the property rights, how he thinks that's the main thing. Then he talks about rollups and data availability and fees and accrual, and then he talks about Bitcoin as well. So you can dig into this and check what Mike thinks of Ethereum and how he thinks it will grow and what his thesis for it is. I'll just read the summary for you all. It says, Ethereum's unwavering focus on decentralization aims to create the most secure and censorship-resistant substrate for the on-chain economy. The rollup-centric roadmap seeks to expand the economic activity of the platform without compromising the features of the settlement layer. As a data availability layer, Ethereum provides a cheap and maximally trustworthy way for rollups to sacrifice decentralization to attract more users while ensuring the sovereignty of the users' assets. He says, I agree with Miles when he says that regardless of the mechanics of the value capture, ETH will be more valuable as an economic activity which takes place in the ecosystem. Optimizing for value capture today feels mature. Finally, while I believe in maintaining settlement properties and scaling DA are the most critical roadmap features, scaling L1 execution can and should be done in parallel by building on the technology and innovation across the space. Fundamentally, I would consider ETH to derive most of its value from being a global, permissionless store of value. While it is engaging to discuss the value accrual story as it relates to scaling the ecosystem, long-term user and developer growth should take precedent over short-term focus on token mechanics. The rollup-centric roadmap makes a lot of sense. Settlement, DA, and execution in that order. So if you want to go and give it a read, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, it's always interesting to see the thoughts from Ethereum Foundation people about what they think are the value accrual systems in ETH and Ethereum as a whole. Okay, next I wanted to share this post from Josh Stark next, and he says, pretty neat that the Ethereum ecosystem has over $20 billion in funding available across a wide range of DAOs and other orgs. Now, this is actually really amazing because when you think about it here, it gives you the breakdown of the treasury amounts of all these different protocols. And so, for example, Optimism has $3 billion of their token in their treasury that they're giving out in a bunch of different ways. There's Uniswap with 2.6 billion, Arbitrum with 1.9 billion, Mantle, Gnosis, ENS, Ethereum Foundation, Graph, MakerDAO, and SafeDAO. And these are systems with like immense amount of money in their DAOs. And this is supposed to last in many years to come. But if there's a bull market and the token prices go up, then it could be the case that the Ethereum ecosystem has $100 billion potentially in their DAOs for them to help their own chains grow, their own platforms grow, but also help Ethereum thrive and succeed and thrive. Now that is an incredible amount of money that could be used for these ends. And I want to highlight that on Rocket Fuel because people who are saying that Ethereum is not going to grow, the fact is that there's so much money in the Ethereum ecosystem now that could be lost, like if it isn't spent on making Ethereum grow, right? And these people all know that, you know, their treasury tokens are either, like, for example, for Optimism it's OP token, for Uniswap it's in ETH, for Arbitrum it's the Arbitrum token, but for the rest of them, mostly the token that they hold is ETH, and they've got hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of it. Now, for them to succeed, they need Ethereum to succeed, right? And this is actually a really interesting symbiotic relationship, because then they will spend their money on making Ethereum succeed. And if you've got these platforms literally with billions of dollars worth of money that they can spend on making Ethereum succeed, which will in turn give them more money because the remaining ETH that they have will be more valuable, I think that is a really interesting setup for there to be a lot of growth to come to Ethereum. Now, incentivizing users to come to Ethereum with $20 billion is a whole lot of incentivization you can do. Helping Ethereum grow with $20 billion is a whole lot of growth that you can do, especially when you consider that the Ethereum Foundation has a target of spending $100 million a year. You know, $20 billion a year, of course, is 200 times that amount. So there is a whole lot of money in Ethereum. So people who are saying that, you know, this isn't, like, Ethereum is dead or whatever, they're talking out of their asses, pardon my language. So talking about Ethereum being dead or whatever, which obviously isn't, this is really fascinating. Now, you might, if you are, you know, stuck in crypto bubble or whatever, you know, on crypto Twitter, you might be seeing all these takes about Ethereum being dead. No one's using Ethereum. Fees are dirt cheap. You know, these are the lowest fees in years, like sub 1 GUI fees. Like, you know, Ethereum, obviously no one's using it. However, that isn't actually the truth of what's happening on chain. Now, Etherscan put out this tweet today saying, did you know that on September the 1st, gas usage on Ethereum hit an all-time high of 109,140 million gas. This is so even with consistently low gas prices seen in recent weeks. Now, what does this mean? This means that blocks that are going through on Ethereum are actually full. Now, it means that there isn't quite enough demand for there to be like a fee market kind of price pump, but you know, gas prices to increase basically. But what is actually happening is that people are actually settling to Ethereum with amounts that, you know, we haven't seen ever before basically. Like, these are all-time high values. So even though the fees are low, or maybe because the fees are low, more people are transacting on Ethereum at those low fees, and, you know, they're willing to pay those low fees to get their transactions on chain, whether that's, you know, transfers, DeFi activity, NFT stuff, whatever it might be. They are actually working on chain, so much so that there's you know, all-time highs in terms of gas usage taking place. Now, Evan Van Ness has a take on this, and he says Ethereum is doing 320 transactions per second. This is on, you know, all the rollups and layer 3s that are there as well. He says mainnet blocks are full, but people are claiming that Ethereum is a ghost chain. He says we live in a fact-free world. Now, the point that he's making is right. This is basically a psyop, I think, right? It's a psychological operation to say, hey, Ethereum is failing, Ethereum is not working, no one's using Ethereum, Ethereum's dead. The reality is that this is the Ethereum scaling roadmap in action. Now, you might, you know, make some points about value accrual to ETH in the short term, or, you know, settlement and how it might be too cheap for rollups to settle on Ethereum right now. But, you know, we've been talking about earlier on in the Ethereum segment about just how much activity can be brought to Ethereum because of the way that it's set up right now. And this is actually, like, you know, primed for explosive growth and saturation of the fee market, the blob fee market, and how, you know, we'll get more blobs probably in the next hard fork and so on. But this is actually really motivating and, like, really encouraging that, you know, the reality of the situation, if you look at the blocks and look at the activity, is completely different to some of the sentiment that you're hearing from people on the crypto Twitter and in other L1s. And yeah. Okay, talking about L2s and how they're succeeding, Coinbase actually put out some information about their Coinbase Summer program. And, you know, this was a thing that's been going on for the last few months, where they're saying, hey, you know, we want builders to come on chain, we want users to come on chain, we want everyone to work on Coinbase this summer. Well, of course, you know, in the US, people tend to think of summer ending with Labor Day. So here Coinbase said, this summer you created, connected, and completed all on-chain. On-chain summer may be over now, but the numbers tell a different story. Thanks for diving in. Let's just have a quick look at what they're saying. They said they had 24 million assets minted on-chain, 1,300 projects submitted to the on-chain registry, 2 million unique wallets on Base, 8 times more participating wallets than the last on-chain summer, 5+ million revenue for projects, and they've got a whole lot more information here as well about like the really good things that they had. If you actually have a look at some more stuff coming out of Coinbase here, POAP.base.eth says monthly active users on Base have actually hit an all-time high, while daily average transaction fees have hit an all-time low, and this is how we bring the world on chain. So just that split there just shows you just what an amazing job they're doing on Base right now. And I know that, you know, Arbitrum and Optimism and others are doing some really cool stuff too, but Base, I think, has caught the mind share in a way that other L2s haven't so far. But, you know, it's not too late for them to do so, but there's some really, really cool stuff happening there with Base. And this just shows you how far ahead Base has gotten from other L2s, even things like Arbitrum, right, and ZK Sync, etc. So they said Base now has more weekly DEX traders than all other L2s combined. What's crazy is that Base went live 1 year ago, so it's relatively new, but it's capturing market share in a way that hasn't happened before. And now here as well, we see that the USDC daily transfer volume on Base hit $7 billion. 1 year ago, it was only $60 million per day. Now, this is over 100 times growth over the course of a year. So Base are definitely leaning into this idea that, you know, we had on-chain summer, we've got people, but these people are sticking around and they're still using Base. And it's really exciting. Like, I think what we need though is like new people coming online a whole lot. Like, you know, there are things for new people to do, whether that's on Base or the L2s or even on mainnet. That would be really good to see. Okay, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the Ethereum Fear and Greed Index. So this is a technical analysis measure that kind of figures out what sentiment is like for Ethereum. And there's one for Bitcoin as well and other assets as well. But this one is Ethereum Fear and Greed Index. And it's actually like the market was quite low in the fear point, like, you know, a couple of days ago over the weekend. Prices have gone down. There was quite a lot of fear around. Normally, this is a good time to buy the token that is in that fear zone. I'm not saying that, you know, you should listen to me and buy Ethereum or buy ETH or any other crypto assets, but it tends to be like a decent buying opportunity. Since the weekend, the fear index has trended up a little bit, and now it's like the lower end of neutral. But that's not to say that, you know, we will might not have another wick down. But it's interesting to see where we are in the market cycle with this. And I don't trade based on the fear and greed index, but if the fear and greed index gets below 10, for example, that has historically been a pretty good time for people to buy. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, Jeremy Allaire, who is the co-founder and CEO of Circle, and they're of course the company that makes USDC, is talking about more crypto banks that are coming online. And these are banks, you know, in TradFi that are now custodying crypto. So here he says another major bank launches USDC custody and rails for institutional customers. This time, Spanish and European banking giant BBVA, their CH division is rolling this out. That's on top of they're rolling out USDC access for other large retail bases in Turkey. So this, I think, is going to happen more and more in the coming year, where people will see that there's a whole lot of money to be made by integrating crypto, because there's so much demand for crypto services. And part of that demand will be kind of pushed onto people as well, right? Because things like Sonium, or if BlackRock make their own L2, they'll be pushing those onto their customers, which will induce further demand. So these banks and these institutions are now kind of getting ahead of that and anticipating that happening and saying, hey, if we get ahead of this, then we can get a cut ourselves. And, you know, that might not be crypto like values aligned, you know, with us wanting to remove intermediaries, but there's a whole lot of money to be made in crypto. And with more and more of these banks or other institutions that start to offer these services, what will happen is that crypto will become more and more accepted, and that can only be a good thing, because gonna eat them alive. Okay, moving on to some other news now. We got some news from Nixo, who of course is the executive director, I think that's her title, with ETHStaker. And of course, she's a Rocket Pool node operator and community member as well. And she just got some really good news where she says that she got hired to the protocol support team at the Ethereum Foundation. So this was actually really, really cool news. So huge congrats goes out to Nixo. Nixo, I met in person at ETH Denver. We spent a lot of time chatting. She was on Launchpad as well, like really, really cool person. So proud of her, so happy for her that she got this job. And there was actually some really nice tweets put out by people like Justin Drake, who she'll be working with on the Ethereum protocol side. And I think she'll be one of the people who is responsible for the all core devs stuff and other stuff as well. So it's really exciting for her. It's really, really awesome when people from our communities like go on and do awesome stuff like this. So I'm so proud of her and I wish her nothing but like the best success. So if you think that you could do what Nixo did at ETHStaker, ETHStaker will probably be looking to replace Nixo with someone else. I was saying to her that in another world I would have been all over that, trying to do that job. But of course, I have you guys, and I'm happy to spend my time with you guys instead of working with ETHStaker. But there's some really, really cool opportunities out there. And Nixo, like, she told me in her Launchpad episode, she just started doing the work, right? And she turned up every day and she worked for ETHStaker, and people noticed that she was turning up every day and she was doing really good work. And she got hired with ETHStaker, and that was awesome for her. And people then at Ethereum Foundation noticed her turning up ETHStaker every day, doing really good work for ETHStaker, promoting the right kind of values, having the right kind of guests on, talking in really interesting ways. Of course, ETHStaker were hosting some of the hard fork calls and were part of that whole thing. So people, notice when you're doing good stuff, and then you get rewarded for it. So I guess Nixo applied for this job for protocol support, and she got it. So I'm so proud of her. So huge, huge, huge congrats goes out to Nixo. And finally, I'm going to end today's episode with this idea that kind of came up on crypto Twitter a couple of days ago, and it's kind of found a life of its own in the Rocket Pool community. So Ryan Beckerman's here follows on from something that Justin Drake said in the Reddit AMA, and he says, let me actually just read that Woo blockchain post. So he says, Justin Drake of the Ethereum Foundation said in an AMA that unless ETH actually becomes a programmable money of the internet, Ethereum cannot become the settlement layer of the value internet. In addition, he believes that a global lottery will become a readily available application on Ethereum based on verifiable randomness with a commission close to free. The government usually takes 50%. So that led to this tweet by Ryan Beckerman saying, just as Justin Drake said, a global lottery in ETH is a top-tier opportunity. Consumers can enjoy a ticket to dream that's more scalable and less extractive than off-chain lotteries. ETH lottery LP is apex yield opportunity, being as scalable as less risky than and orthogonal to staking. So now let's have a look what happened with this. Adam said that there's a global no loss lottery on Ethereum right now, and this is Pool Together, and their version 5 just launched. However, Pool Together isn't, I think, what Ryan was talking about, right? Like, so Pool Together is a pool where you put your ETH, and for every X amount of ETH, you get one ticket, and that ETH then goes off into DeFi and earns a yield. For example, in Aave you can get 5% or whatever it is, and then the income that all of that ETH gets, that gets divided out as a prize. So this is a no loss lottery, which means that you don't actually lose any money, you just don't earn the rewards. But however, one person or one entity gets all the rewards for that period. So that's no loss lottery. However, what we started talking about in the Rocket Pool community was a lot closer to an actual lottery, and we made a little thread called Trading Makes a New Lottery. And what's really interesting here is that we were talking about doing an on-chain lottery where you buy a ticket just like the regular lottery, and you have to match the tickets to a number that gets drawn every period. And if a person wins the prize, then they can get certain amount of ETH out of it. But if no one wins the prize, then the jackpot kind of rolls over to the following week. And of course, we've seen lotteries in Europe and especially in the US where you can have prizes of up to $1 billion, if not more. I think the biggest one was like $1.5 billion or something like that. To get something like that on Ethereum would be absolutely incredible. And I think there could be like, its own L2, the lottery L2 or something like that. In this thread, like a whole bunch of like gigabrains from the community kind of came and shared ideas about how it might work, what it might look like, and what the barriers to it are. So there's a legal barrier, of course, where there's regulatory issues depending on what jurisdictions you offer the lottery in. On top of that, there's still an issue with verifiable randomness. And that might sound weird, right? Like, what do you mean by verifiable randomness? So random is actually really difficult to achieve algorithmically to make something truly random. Because what happens is you need an algorithm to make something random, and then the algorithm can be like cracked or hacked and the randomness can be broken. And if the randomness is broken, then people can back engineer it to figure out what the output will be. This actually happened with a wallet where they was using a flawed randomization system to generate keys, and then that was cracked and keys were broken for those wallets. That doesn't mean that, I think it was Bitcoin or Ethereum. That doesn't mean that those blockchains were insecure. It means that the way to generate those keys was insecure. And that technology isn't quite there yet, it seems, to get random enough information. Now, on smaller scales, you can get random enough information through RANDAO, which is what the Ethereum blockchain uses on the consensus layer side. But to get $1 billion lottery, that randomness would need, to be the most secure thing we have, and probably more secure than what we have right now. But this thread, there's some really, really cool ideas in here. So if you are interested in making a lottery on Ethereum, then come by trading and talk to people here in the Trading Makes a New Lottery thread. And you can share your ideas and try to get this working. I think Ramana wants to get working on it. They understand the need for like a super slick front end. But Ramana, this person Black Templar, and a bunch of others are actually sharing really good ideas. So if you are interested in contributing to those ideas, come and join the thread. And it could be, basically a multi-billion dollar system here, because the current lottery takes away like 50% for themselves, and that goes to a bunch of different places, but some of it just stick with the lottery. Whereas this one, you could have 90%, 95%, even 99% going back to people who buy tickets, but that 1% of value that gets skimmed off the top potentially could end up being, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, which would lead it to be a billions of dollars company, if not, tens of billions of dollars company. So this is a really, really cool idea. And if you are interested in contributing to it, then come by the thread and share your ideas. So yeah. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. I'm sorry for missing yesterday's episode. I just got a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that was going on. But I'm hoping that I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. And thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. Hope you all have a lovely day ahead. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.